Baker and the Bucs have owned Philadelphia each of the last 3 seasons, but the Birds' annual trip to Tampa this year is already shaping up to look a lot different. As key injury updates are in that should help both teams, Jordan Mailata has a new plan to slow down the Bucs' blitzes, and why Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are about to be finally unleashed. Thomas Mott, this is the Thomas Mott Show. All eyes in Philadelphia have now shifted to Tampa Bay, where the weather, the opponent, and the undefeated record of both teams have taken center stage, in what has been the Birds' true early season Achilles heel the past couple of years. Although the final injury report for both sides is going to make this whole matchup a lot more interesting. First though, quick update, the winner of the Jordan Spector Cooper DeJean art piece, it's announced at the end of today's video, so stay tuned to the end to see if you won. Also, if you drop a like right now and be one of the ones to correctly predict the final touchdown score of Sunday's game, obviously if the Birds win as well, I'll draw for another Cooper DeJean art piece winner at the end of our game stream this Sunday, so take your best guesses down below. Now, injuries first, let's start with Tampa, as all eyes have been on Chris Godwin's potential return this week, and what do you know, looks like he's going to be ready to go. As the Bucs announced on Friday that Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, and tackle Tristan Wirfs are all questionable but likely to play on Sunday, which honestly is not a massive surprise. We've been tracking this all week long, and Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin, they've been practicing, and so we expected them to play. They are going to play, barring a massive setback right before game time, and honestly, it's good news for the Bucs, not so great for the Birds, but the Bucs are healthy entering this matchup. The Birds, though, are similar, but not exactly perfect, as every Eagle practiced on Friday, including Adoree Jackson, although Philadelphia's final injury report revealed that Jackson is out for Sunday, meaning Kelee Ringo will get his first start of the season. And honestly, if Mike Evans, for example, was healthy, I'd be pretty darn worried about Kelee. But with Evans out, Ringo should have at least a slightly easier time against a still strong receiving core for the Bucs, but I'd say right now, not elite, at least this week. Either way, though, this is truly a huge opportunity for Kelee Ringo to finally prove his worth with Adoree Jackson out. Best of luck, number 7. I'm really pulling for you. Still, besides the injuries at cornerback, Jihaad Campbell, Lane Johnson, Tanner McKee, Will Shipley, and Zack Baun are all ready to roll this coming Sunday. With Campbell, honestly, the least of my concerns entering this week because, yes, he sat out Wednesday, but did return Thursday and Friday. No worries, he'll play. My real concern, though, was Zack Baun because of the massive leg brace. We talked about it earlier this week. Although he obviously practiced on Friday and told reporters that it was simply precautionary and he's ready to roll versus the Bucs.
Yeah, I'm good. I feel really good. We tried out the brace yesterday just for precautionary measures if something were to happen, or just to have in the future as well. Just get fitted for a brace and see how I like it. Felt good today. I feel good. I felt good today. We'll see about Sunday, yeah.
Philadelphia's healthy. Not a surprise. It's a good sign, though. We do forget that this is very different from where they were at this point last year heading into Week 4 versus Tampa. That game had no A.J. Brown. It had no Devontae Smith. It had no Lane Johnson. They lost Reed Blankenship halfway through. They lost Jalen Carter. They obviously lost their center in Cam Jurgens. They were so banged up in that loss. People forget that. And at least this year, entering the game, they're pretty much 100%. Now, injuries aside, let's go to the actual game here, and I'm honestly really tired of all the weather talk that's encircled Philadelphia's locker room and externally as well. I get it, Tampa Bay is hot. The Birds did have issues because of it last season, but it's not like every single team that plays the Bucs on the road in September loses because of the heat. Still, the problem brewing now could be heat plus rain, as the on-field temperature, at least forecast for Sunday, is a high of up to 97 degrees, per the possibility of scattered thunderstorms and wind gusts up to 17 knots. That'll make things interesting. Which, by the way, Philadelphia is preparing for this. They did it at Thursday's practice and Friday's practice, trying to simulate catching passes in the rain. Not sure if this is exactly the same, but still, they're trying. Plus, the Birds have already dealt with rain. They did it back in Week 1. And then we forget a record heat wave in Kansas City in Week 2. Kansas City is not Tampa Bay, but still, they've endured heat so far. Oh, and finally, for good measure, Jordan Davis said the saunas have had a few extra guests this week. The guys are doing everything possible to survive and advance this weekend in Tampa.
You know, that's why we go in there. I'm sure in the bathroom there's probably 15 guys sitting in the sauna. So little stuff like that, just get acclimated with the heat, hydrating, eating right, fueling right. That's the most important thing. So going into this week, it's just more so just preparation, and then also the X's and O's and everything. We say that, but until you really go down there and feel it, I mean, it's the humidity. I'm sure if you've been to Florida, you understand how it is when you go down there. You never really prepare for it, especially being up here in Philly. But the most we can do is just sit in the sauna, sit in a hot tub, stuff like that, and just really try to get acclimated.
I understand it's going to be hot. I understand it's going to be a factor, but it was a very hot offseason in Philadelphia. Training camp, if you live there, you guys know, it was extremely spicy out there, and so hopefully conditioning is not a problem. Honestly, I'm less worried about heat, less worried about injuries, more worried about getting this offense going, especially Saquon Barkley versus the Bucs. Barkley's quiet start to the year, it's been no secret, as Dallas, Kansas City, and LA all threw new looks to try to really successfully slow down Saquon. That, of course, did include blitzing, as the Birds are one of the most heavily blitzed teams in the entire NFL through 3 weeks, something everybody inside the building understands and definitely expects this week versus Todd Bowles in Tampa.
I mean, Chiefs, we got blitz more than we've ever got blitz, and going down the Todd Bowles, you're going to get blitz. It's just what they do. They're always at one of the highest percentages in the league every year, and it's good getting that looks early in the year. Getting used to it, getting ready for it. Yeah, he's done a great job. Just being in communication with us and making sure that we are all on the same page. And if you don't have everybody accounted for and picking up a blitz, you need to make sure you have a hot answer and hot routes, and that's more important than picking everybody up, is having answers for when you don't.
Bowles historically has blitzed Jalen Hurts, especially on 60% of his dropbacks in 5 meetings. That's almost double the average that Jalen Hurts has faced against every other team besides the Bucs in his career. I do think, though, Hurts has dramatically improved pre-snap the past 2 seasons, which has resulted in his ability to handle and really defeat the blitzes. But, as Nick Sirianni pointed out, the only way to stop teams like the Bucs from blitzing you all 4 quarters is to beat it. So far this season, Philadelphia has done a pretty decent job of doing that.
You don't stop seeing it until you make those plays. And I think when you see the Kansas City one to Devontae, there's been a bunch, but particularly the Kansas City one to Devontae, and then the touchdown against the Rams, that's going to put more and more fear into the defense to be able to run that. So I think Kevin's done a nice job of and Stout and everybody involved on the offensive side of giving us answers. And I think that players have been executing that at a high level, particularly in that pass game.
And going back to Saquon, stopping the blitz should open up the running lanes and hopefully give Hurts time to throw as well. All of that, of course, starts up front, something Jordan Mailata admitted this week. It's been a struggle for the O-line through 3 games, but it sounds like they've implemented some new changes he didn't want to reveal heading into week 4.
And offensive line, we kind of overcomplicate things sometimes, and so I think this week, just making our process real simple, real easy, making sure that we're communicating so that the detail and execution can be at a high rate.
Historically, though, Jalen Hurts has struggled against Tampa Bay. We talked about this, as twice in the last 3 meetings, he never went over 160 yards passing and has thrown 3 interceptions and had an eye-popping 9 sacks. Still, though, the key factor I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, missing from the game last year, no Lane Johnson. He was out with a concussion and did not play. The Bucs obviously got a lot of sacks. With Lane back in this week, hopefully that's not as big of a problem. I do think it's important to note, though, as scary as the Bucs defense is, they're coming off of a game versus the Jets' backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, who was not only very efficient throwing the football against this vaunted Bucs secondary, but running it himself as well. Tyrod carried the ball 8 times for 48 yards with multiple critical runs in the second half. The Birds have hinted at using more design runs for Jalen Hurts. Obviously, the ones versus the Dallas Cowboys were not really designed, but I do expect maybe some more blitz-beating quarterback read option runs, say that 10 times fast, on Sunday versus Todd Bowles. Still, though, Todd Bowles is a mastermind of a defensive coordinator. I know he struggled the past couple of weeks. We'll talk about that, but he has had the Birds' number literally the past 5 seasons, it seems, dating before A.J. Brown and really before Jalen Hurts was actually the MVP quarterback we know and love today. So the Birds understand this. They actually acknowledged it a couple of days ago that Todd has had our number. Maybe this year it'll change.
I think that's just kind of fair. What's the record? It was like,
So I know
1-4.
Yeah, 1-4. Nick
Yeah.
is 1-4 against them.
Yeah, so I think they have the edge. But it's a new year. It's a new game. Obviously, you can't take old games into a new one or an old motivation. It's a new season, so we have a job to do, and we're going to try to go out there and do it to our best ability.
We've, dating back to 2021, I think, we played them in 21 and twice they beat us. We played them in 23. We split with them, and then obviously they beat us last year. So another team kind of like the Chiefs, where we've played them a bunch over these past 5 years. And so you're always looking at those old games to kind of identify the things that they did well, the things that you did well, to see if you can repeat them. And so that's always on our mind when we're playing a team is, what do we think they did well that they would repeat? What do we think that they won't do because we hurt them on it and vice versa.
And what hopefully will change, not just this year, but from the past couple of weeks, is to make sure that A.J. Brown is finally the X factor because A, the Birds offense looked night and day different when Hurts and Patullo actually fed number 11 the ball, but B, because Brown has hardly played in this heated series between Tampa and Philadelphia, as he's missed due to injury in each of the Birds' previous, not just last year, 2 losses. With the lone game he actually played in, they won. And A.J. himself in that game absolutely balled out. They feed A.J. Brown early and often, as we've been saying for 3 weeks now, which clearly is important. You have to think that Kevin Patullo can get this offense back on track if he can just find number 11 in the first quarter. I'm expecting a lot of targets for A.J. Brown, no matter what the defense is doing. Likewise, staying with receivers, and I cannot wait for the Quinyon Mitchell versus Emeka Egbuka superstar young corner and wide receiver matchup. Because Mike Evans, as we mentioned earlier this week, he's out. That allows Q to freely travel around and hopefully completely erase Egbuka. Something the Birds' number 1 cornerback has done so far against all the top receivers the first 3 weeks of the season. I honestly like Emeka a lot, but he shouldn't be a match for Q if the Birds let him travel. And I think that's an important factor. They don't have Mike Evans. They are missing their number 1 target on the outside who torched the Birds this time last season. While I'm not saying the Bucs are overrated by any means, they're 3-0, they're extremely dangerous, especially against the Birds. We also need to acknowledge that Tampa Bay, they've had some tough games to start this season, and dare I say, they might be a tad overrated. Sure, the Bucs are 3-0, like Philadelphia. Respect them. But it did take an overtime upset touchdown to beat Atlanta week 1. Then they only won by 1 point to actually overmatch the lowly Texans in week 2. And then the Baker Magic, as we saw last week, in their holdout win against the Jets. If Philadelphia, this sounds simple, but it's true, can build a lead early and then get to Baker Mayfield, this game might not be close come the fourth quarter. And that goes without saying that you also have to stop Bucky Irving because this past week versus the LA Rams, Philadelphia did a very bad job in stopping Kyren Williams. They were averaging at one point nearly 8 yards per rush. And Irving, in my opinion, is better than Kyren Williams. And if you can make sure to slow him down, that will then force Baker to throw more, hopefully more interceptions, and then the rest is history. Philadelphia last week, their pass defense was honestly great, for the most part, except for the push-off here, but I digress. There was a few Nakua and Devontae Adams moments of magic, but the real problem, as I just said, was the run defense early, which then set up the deep shots. Stop the Bucs rushing game, force Baker to throw. I just said this, and then pin back the ears, go get some sacks, and hopefully they can win this one. Which is something myself and Josh Davis talked about during our weekly live show a couple of days ago. Tampa Bay's good, but Philadelphia, I think they're better on paper. I'm predicting the Birds obviously win. I don't know if it's going to be close or not because it is Todd Bowles, but I'm really hoping they start fast and finish strong. I'm cautiously optimistic. I just don't know about the offense. I did not like Kevin Patullo's press conference yesterday, Josh. I don't know how you feel about it. I'm sure it'll come out in your show here after our show, but
yep.
Kevin Patullo had every opportunity. They gave him, and I like all, I'm not in the interview rooms. I'm not asking the questions. And so we got to go with what the beat writers are asking. Most of the beat writers in Philadelphia normally grill everybody, especially when things are going wrong. I thought there was a lot of softball questions for Kevin Patullo, and no one followed up on the fact that they asked him, were you too conservative? And he said, no, I don't think so. Our entire week we were saying we don't want to be attack. And yet people didn't follow up with but you guys went 3 and out 4 straight drives and didn't throw the football deep or in the middle of the field, and the runs are very scripted. Nobody pressed them on the fact that they were awful in that first half. And Jalen Hurts bailed them out in the second half, and they got 2 block kicks and, a couple of missed throws by Matt Stafford. So I am cautiously optimistic we're going to see a better Eagle offense early in this game, but I could totally see Todd Bowles doing what Todd Bowles does against Philadelphia and lighting up Jalen Hurts, and suddenly we're losing and everyone's freaking out like we were the first half of last week. So I'm a little concerned.
It's a different, Jalen has been better against the blitz, but I said this, I think, yesterday. It's a different blitz with Todd Bowles than it is for most everybody else. So he's had the number of Jalen Hurts and thrown him off the spot, especially for the offense, regardless of what offensive coordinator it's been. There's an element to it where I'm hopefully they stay aggressive and dictate terms. But even in Patullo's press conference, I'm right there with you. I was okay, he's not admitting to anything, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been, I think it was Zack Baun, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially bringing up hey, AJ and Jalen referencing that it was too conservative, or we can't continue to play like this. Your thoughts? And KP goes, well, I don't know that I would say it's conservative. And then just kind of goes on the, typical word salad that we see from Sirianni, and now we've starting to see from KP as well. I don't know if they're just trying to kind of cover it right now because for some reason they don't want to.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if they want to share specifics. I don't know what it is, but there's something about the offensive coordinator position that regardless of who is in that role, it's a lot of just word salad. It's a lot of we're not getting much. And I know that Vic Fangio is one of one. He's his own man, and so it's special to get his press conferences because when we hear from him, he will reveal probably too much sometimes. Sometimes you gotta imagine.
I love him. I love Vic Fangio.
Howie and Sirianni are going like, yeah, you didn't really have to say that much. You could have just left it with the first bit, but it's whatever. So it is refreshing, but I don't know. Overall, I'm still, it's frustrating, but I'm kind of moving on at this point for me of like, let's just see Sunday. If Sunday is some of those similar issues and we don't take advantage and it's like, well, there you go. There's the first half of the Rams game again. We're continuing to see this. Then, all right, it's time. Like, I don't care too much of like show me rather than tell me. So I don't care too much at this point. But if we get another week or two and it's like we're not seeing it on the field and now there's no owning up to it, kind of holding yourself accountable and actually realizing it, then I'll have a little bit more of an issue. But at least, AJ voiced it. Jalen voiced it. They came right out and like, look, we got some dogs. We got some guys who have some ability. I don't know why you don't just let us go out there and roll, do our thing. So, it's been
so
said.
We forget that the one thing that worked in that Bucs loss last year was Saquon Barkley. I don't know if he had 100 or was close to it, but he did have a rushing touchdown. He was the lone impressive part of that Bucs loss.
Yes, and the Bucs have been really good against the run this year. Not to say that they can't be gashed in this game, but I want to say they're like top 5. We have more preview stuff for you guys closer to the game that we do for the game previews. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because Saquon's surely due at some point. 3.3 yards per carry is not going to hold up for the season. It is going to get better. It's just a question of when. So, look out. I like it. It's a contrarian play. People would say that others are trending not that direction, but did you hear the dogs in the background there?
I do hear the dogs in the background, yes.
Some sort of package. Elbert with a 5. Guys, the Eagles are still pretty damn good, even with KP in learning mode. Give him time to get it together. This team is a Super Bowl contender 100%.
That is the hope. We did say that about Brian Johnson, was that it was learning mode, the Jets game and stuff like that. But we hope that Ken Patullo has already learned and he'll adjust this weekend. So we'll see. Now, of course, myself and Josh Davis will be live streaming the game on Sunday afternoon. Right around 12:45, we'll go live. Be sure to subscribe and join the stream. We have a ton of fun. That's where you can also have a chance to win the second Cooper DeJean. I have it over here. Hang on. The second Cooper DeJean Jordan Spector art piece right here. This one, though, I have to give away right now to a randomly selected winner who has subscribed to the show, dropped a like, and commented on at least one of my previous 2 videos, and that was at GoBirds2083. So GoBirds2083, you won. Go down below to my description box, all the details on how to prove it's you. Send me an email, claim this bad boy. And then, of course, if you are one of the people to correctly predict the last touchdown score, changing up this week for tomorrow's game, and the Birds win, I'll draw one of those people to go and win another one of these at the end of Sunday's live stream. So trying to give away as many of these things as possible because I think they're absolutely fantastic and you guys have been eating them up in the comment section. So that will hopefully happen tomorrow, albeit with a Birds win. Plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks. Let's just get to 4-0, not be injured, and show some good offense, at least early in this game. Not what we saw in the first half against the Rams. I digress. I'm Thomas Mott. Pump for tomorrow. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.